from the council's licensing team, our legal officer, Lindsay Lemasurier. Also with us are our committee officers, Emily Beard and Tommy Hanber. Yusuf Allah will be joining us shortly. Before we start the hearing for this case, just a few ground rules. Please keep your microphones on mute. We have it, Jenny, so they are on mute. Until you're invited to speak, as only two can be used at any time, and please make sure your phones are on silent. Thank you. The case before us today is to grant a license for Natural History Museum at Cromwell Road, SW75BD. Now, for declarations of interest, I confirm that I have no declaration of interest to make regarding this item. Do the other members have any declarations to make? Councillor Petit?
No.
Councillor Wade?
No.
Thank you, colleagues. For clarity, I will outline the procedure of the meeting, which has already been circulated with the papers. First, the licensing officer, Mr. Phelan, will give a brief outline of the application. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Good morning, Chair.
Thank you. Then I will ask Mr. Robert Weatherill to speak to the applicant to present his submission. He will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. Could you confirm your attendance, please?
Yes, thank you.
And what is your name?
Susie. Oh, Susie, you're on the paper, your name. She's her name's in Pat, but she's not on the list.
Okay, so it is Susie what?
Williamson.
Oh, yes, okay. Right. Okay, then questions may be asked by members of the committee and the legal officer of the applicant, followed by question. No objectors, so no questions from them. Then questions may be asked by members of the committee and the legal officer. We don't need that either because it's of the objectors. So I think we can just really deal with it through questions. Okay. We have had 4 objections from residents, none of whom can attend today, but I wish to reassure them that we shall take into account their written representations. After this, we will ask our legal officer, Ms. Lemasurier, to deal with any questions she may have, and then she will lead on the draft conditions session. The list of potential conditions has been circulated to all of the parties prior to the hearing. Please, could you confirm your attendance? I see you. Then finally, we will turn to the governance team to see if any issues have been raised that we need to consider. There'll be no summing up and the meeting will end. I would like to remind everyone that the committee has read the papers which comprise the main pack that has been circulated to the parties, so there is no need to repeat their content, but please do draw our attention to certain points and pages. Mr. Phelan, please can you outline the case for us and advise if there has been any additional documentation received?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Today we have an application from the trustees of the National History Museum for a premises license grant at the National History Museum, Cromwell Road, London, SW75BD.
Could you speak up a bit?
Of course. The museum currently holds 2 premises licenses covering the Darling Centre and some of the outside garden areas and various galleries within the main building. A list of the licensable activities permitted via these licenses is included on page 5 and 6 of today's report. Precise details of the licensable areas and titles covered by these licenses is also included in Appendix A, page 67, and Appendix B, page 92, respectively, Chair. Today's application is for the grant of a new premises license to cover the garden area surrounding the museum, as well as the garden kitchen and garden meeting room on the east side of the estate, known as the Evolution Garden. A detailed list of the licensable activities and timings and non-standard timings sought as part of this application are included on pages 6 and 7 of today's papers. For reference, a copy of the new grant application is attached as Appendix C, with the supporting plans attached to Appendix D. The application for a premises license grant at the National History Museum received 4 representations opposing the application. A summary of these objections is shown on pages 14 and 15, with copies of the full representations attached to Appendix E. There have been 2 noise complaints received in the past 24 months, details of which are attached at Appendix F. In the past year, the premises have been the subject of 11 temporary event notices and 7 non-standard timings. Apologies, Chair. A list of which is attached at Appendix G. Finally, Chair, the Planning Department has confirmed that there are no planning restrictions or conditions, which the subcommittee should be aware of. A copy of the planning officer's comments is attached at Appendix H. For clarity, Chair, there have been no additional documents circulated. That concludes a summary of this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the noise complaints have been dealt with and did not repeat themselves. I saw from your papers, correct?
That's correct. There resulted in no further action being taken.
Thank you very much. Now for the applicant's case, Mr. Weatherall, please can you advise if there have been any amendments to your applications?
Thank you.
Okay, before you start your submission, could you please talk us through the diagram, just in what you're applying for?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, maybe you want to bring us to a page, or because we can't put it up here, or can we? The diagram, Emily.
I don't think we'll be able to right now.
Oh, it's
sorry.
right. So if you can talk us through, because you submitted so many diagrams, if you could talk us through what you're.
But I don't submit it on probably.
I think it just needs to.
There's
Just
It's talking about the other licenses, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and yeah, so speaking specifically to the diagram, that covers most of the garden areas that surround the museum that go all the way around, right from the east side, which is where we're building the new garden kitchen, cafe, and garden meeting room, wraps around the whole building, round to the west side, which includes the Darwin Centre courtyard as well. Probably should point out that the vast majority of those areas are already licensed, but going through the process, the licensing department advised that we basically clarified exactly what it is that we want to do. And there's a change to what's happening over in the Evolutionary Garden on the east side, on the right hand side, as you look at the plan. We've got a new building there, top right as you look at it, called the Garden Kitchen and Garden Meeting Room. And the plan is that we use that as a cafe space daytime and as an event space in the evening.
Sorry, what in the evening?
An event space. Yeah.
Is the wildlife gardens, they're not licensed at all?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. They never have been, and we didn't include that as part.
And the Darwin Centre, in the pack, there is a reference to Darwin Centre number 2. Can you clarify that?
Where's that?
Sure. Okay. So it's actually a building. So it's part of the actual Natural History Museum.
Is it an external one?
Is that the cocoon?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so whereabouts?
It's in here somewhere.
It's that sort of oval shape that you can
Yeah,
see.
yeah, that's oval shape.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's Darwin Centre 2.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
I think it's just the phases that they built it in. So Darwin Centre 1 is a bit the spirit collection that sticks out just above it.
At the top.
Above,
Yeah, that's right.
that's DC one up there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is East Lawn, where Evolution
That's correct. Yes.
and Central Courtyard. West Lawn, it hasn't got another name, but it's just West Lawn.
It doesn't actually know.
And then Darwin Centre Courtyard.
Yeah. Good. So carry on, please. And then,
Great, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much and good morning, and thank you for allowing us to speak today. We haven't ever done one of these, so I appreciate your warmth that you've shown us already. Just like to introduce myself. Mike, as you know, I'm Robert. I'm head of events and catering at the Natural History Museum. This is Susie. Susie's our designated premises supervisor. Between us, we've both worked at the museum for over 7 years as well in this capacity. So we have 14 years experience of running events between us. And the museum itself, just to give a bit of context, has been running events for approximately 30 years. Each year we host up to about 200 events, which comprises a mixture of corporate events, private events, things like weddings, ticketed events, And also internal events, we do things like launch our galleries, have our directors dinner, that kind of thing. And as Paul already mentioned, we operate under 2 licenses. The first license actually covers the whole of the museum and the gardens. The second license I applied for in 2017, it was granted in 2018. And the reason that we applied for that license at that point was we had areas that were previously not licensed. So we were opening a members room, it wasn't licensed, so we needed to get that license. Coincidentally, at the same time, our shop was looking at selling alcohol, bottled beers, and things like that. So we got an off license for the shop as well. And we also just did a bit of general tidying up at the time as well. So moving on to why we made this application, this specifically refers to the outside areas of the museum. So the museum has been working on its gardens for a number of years, and we actually opened them to the public about a month ago. And as already discussed, over on the east side, the Exhibition Road, Cromwell Road corner, we've got the garden kitchen, garden meeting room, which, as I said, will the intention is to operate as a cafe during the daytime and as an events space for the evening. And next to that slightly bigger space, we've got an octagonal room, which we call in the garden meeting room. And by daytime, that will be a meeting room, and in the evening, and also an ancillary event space adjoining to the garden kitchen. So we began our conversations with the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea back in October last year. We spoke to Laura McGowan originally about pre-application advice. And Laura and a lady called Melanie Adam came out to see us in November, and we explained the proposed usage of the space. We explained what we intended to do there. And as I've mentioned previously, the gardens are actually already licensed, and we do hold events in those. But as Laura explained to us, the building over on the east side is new, and the original license needs to be tidied up. If you look at the original license, it's very unclear. I don't think anyone has a decent copy of that. So the plan was just to tidy it all up a bit as well. So that's why we made this application. As recommended, we held a meeting with our residents' committees in April, and we submitted the application in June. So here we are. You've seen details of the license, so obviously I don't need to run through that, but obviously happy to clarify any particular points. And I know there's something in the draft suggested conditions to clarify as well, which obviously we'll come on to for sure. So the one thing that we have done is that within the existing license, licensable activities can take place until midnight, Sunday to Thursday, and 1 AM Friday to Saturday in the gardens over on the east side. However, we're seeking to self-impose curfew of 10 PM because we think it's fair that we use the same restrictions that we have over on the Darwin Centre side, that whilst activities within the buildings can carry on later, we don't want any licensable activities to happen outside after 10 o'clock. We obviously respect our neighbours. I think we have a good relationship with them. And yeah, within the application, we're looking to replicate the conditions that exist within our other licenses. We do have a number of measures in place. I won't run through them all, but I'd like to reassure everyone that for every event that we hold, we have a dedicated event manager on site, such as Susie. We have SIO registered security staff, and we have all the strict restrictions around consumption of alcohol. And probably very importantly as well is that we don't, as part of the license, we wouldn't have any amplified sound within the gardens either. So just to clarify as well is that whilst we've licensable activities to run from 8 till midnight Sunday to Thursday and 8 till 1 Friday to Saturday within the buildings, we'd like the possibility on 5 occasions to extend by 1 hour, as we do on the Darwin Centre side as well. So within the gardens, we'd like to look at the possibility of having 5 opportunities a year where we can extend that 10 PM licence by 1 hour until 11 PM. And probably importantly as well, I should say that any events that we do in the garden also have an indoor space attached to them. So there aren't any events that are just purely outside, because we're in London and it tends to rain a lot. So So where there are events that go on beyond 10 p.m. or if it's raining, people will move inside. And that's how we've operated on the Darwin Centre side for many years as well. So specifically addressing the representations that we've received, we have provided responses which are in the pack. So again, I won't run into those into any detail. And just to clarify again, there's no proposal to change any part of the licence relating to the Darwin Centre or Darwin Centre Courtyard at all. Again, I know it's a point we'll come on to in the paper, but we, just to make a note, we have been using that entrance and exit for many, many years without issue for the events that we already hold at the museum. And we are very happy to include the condition that restricts patrons congregating on Queensgate after 10 p.m. in the same way that we have one for Exhibition Road. And we're currently putting together with Susie and our security team and a few other teams within the museum, the detailed dispersal plan, which we know that we'll need to operate under, which we will obviously share once it's been finalised and fully agreed with everyone as well. Just final point, just picking up on the noise complaints. Whilst there were 2 complaints, I believe that one was a noise complaint, which involved someone playing a steel drum outside the front of the museum at 7 o'clock for one of our launch events a few weeks ago. And I believe that finished by the time the noise officer went out. And I think the other one, I'm not sure it was a noise complaint. I think it was someone complained because they weren't able to get a free cup of water during an event that we had. So yeah, not specifically noise, but just thought I'd make that note. But that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, any questions from the committee? Councillor Petit?
No.
Okay, Councillor Wade?
Yes, you're going to be using the garden. I'd like to know if you go into the garden cafe and you buy a drink and you go into the garden, or whether or not there are points within the garden, because the whole area is licensed, whether there would be places within the garden and how you manage that, because once you're outside a constrained environment and you're very obviously front facing, do you have a management strategy?
Yeah, we first of all, we have a number of security people for every event that we have. We have a dot plan, which means that they're strategically placed at various points throughout the gardens. And indeed, for any events that we hold within the museum, the security at various points so that we can control the perimeter of the event, but also what's happening inside the event as well. So for the over on the east side, for example, we would have a capacity of about 300 people per day. It's based on how many people that we could actually have inside. So I think we'd have between 8 and 12 security, as we would for any event that we host within the museum during an event.
So that they can't leave the premises with the alcohol.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right.
So the other thing is presumably that if they're going to go into the garden, it'll be plastic cups.
Yeah, we've spoken about that, or a sustainable alternative for sure.
So
Yeah.
we're looking at polycarbon, which is
And so
much more sustainable.
When you come to your famous skating event, you would still go to 10 o'clock.
Skating is no longer happening.
Sorry?
The ice rink is no longer happening.
Right, but are you planning events of that type of scale?
No,
So that area will be exclusively garden now and entry.
that's correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that you mentioned films. Now, where are the films going to be?
We included it just because it's included in the rest of our license. We have no specific plans at the moment, but potentially at some point,
But they would be outdoor.
outdoor films has been mentioned as a possibility of something that we could do.
And why do you want 1 a.m. and outside?
We don't want 1 a.m. outside. We want 10 p.m. But for the building, 1 AM. Thank you.
Okay, yes,
The 5 times a year occurrence with the extension of the hour, will you actually notify the neighbourhood? And will you be able to actually have a notice on those dates? Will this be last minute? Or will this be regular events through the years that neighbours can actually sort of, anticipate, or will it be random?
They'll be random.
Okay.
There'll be one-off
We
events.
would have to apply for it.
So a temporary, okay,
That's right,
all right,
yes.
understand.
thank you. I have a few questions. On the late nights, are they mostly for fundraisers and weddings?
There's a whole
It's a
mix.
mix,
It's a
yes.
real mix. So it does include charity events,
Yeah,
weddings,
fundraisers, yeah.
birthday parties, lots of corporate events, sort of like award ceremonies and things like that. Any reason a company might be holding an event, celebrations, anniversaries, that type of thing.
So when people leave the premises, will you be controlling? You know, you're not supposed to serve people who are drunk.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay, so will you make sure that your bartenders do not? It's very
Yes.
important because otherwise they pile out and
Absolutely.
make tons of noise and that's not good for your business.
Absolutely. We're very strict on that. We run some really nice events at the museum, and we for the vast majority of events that we have, we're actually in consultation with the organisers anything up to 2 years before the event actually happens. And so we're very clear to them exactly what the rules are. A lot of our bookings are repeats anyway. Weddings obviously not so much, and you don't want it to be. But so they know how to. They don't put onto their guests their expectations in terms of behaviour, but we do a lot of high profile and black tie dinner type events. So it's not the sort of event necessarily where people are. We don't run sorts of events where people are sort of heavily drinking outside and then causing trouble.
And we also work with an accredited list of suppliers, so every caterer coming on site has gone through a very strict tender process with us. And as part of that process, we run through a lot of documentation regarding service of alcohol on the premises. So we don't have a random company coming in to serve alcohol to guests.
Yeah.
We have a very strict process with that.
Obviously, because if you start giving away free booze, especially shots, they get very inebriated.
We don't allow shots.
You don't?
We have
That's
very
a
strict
good
rules
policy.
around alcohol service as well. We also have a challenge 25 in place and
Okay.
a lot of other procedures in place that we join up with our head of security with as well in terms of licensing.
Good answer, and
And as well as as well as protecting what happens within our environs, we've got the museum to protect as well and
Of
its
course.
collection. So putting anything at risk like that we wouldn't want to do.
yes, and in terms of the meeting with residents associations, you are in touch already with residents associations?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that relationship is actually managed by our development team. So the meeting that we had most recently was organised by them, and so they kind of hold that. There's a lady called Jennifer McCormack who is in contact with them, but it was included. It was the main reason for having that meeting last time, but then it went on to other matters as well.
Right, and you'll have an emergency number if there's a.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Wade, you had an additional query?
Yes, it's about the exit management strategy. A number of the objectors don't want exits into Queensgate or into Exhibition Road. So you've got the issue of congregation go before they go in and as they exit. What is your plan around that? And is there a viable way of actually doing through the central courtyard?
So as part of the conditions, we put together a dispersal plan with our head of security, which will apply to the premises. That plan will be submitted to you, and that will outline exactly what our process will be. We have a set number of dedicated security officers on each event, including a security supervisor. So for every event, we have a certain number of officers, ranging between 12 to 15 security officers potentially. And one of the ways in which we manage guests arriving and exiting is through a staggered split phase, and also for our security team really controlling the way that guests are leaving. So we control guests leaving right from closing the bar and asking them to make their way to the cloakrooms through to them leaving the premises. And we try and do that in a staggered way so that people are not leaving all at once, blocking any exits, congregating. We're very careful about guest flow around the building and guest leaving as well. And we work very closely with our head of security to make sure that we're managing that in the best way possible.
I think it's more when they get up onto Cromwell Road or Exhibition Road, you might have got them off your site.
So
But how are you going to ensure that they actually truly disperse from the area and don't continue to stand outside?
and we do have a duty of care very much so to make sure that guests, whilst they may have come off our site and off our perimeter, we don't just shut the gates and leave them to it. We have a security team down at the gates. We'll be asking guests to partly make their way to the tube stations.
And do they walk around the site, or do they just, are they at fixed points?
They are at fixed points, and then we have several officers who are linked, as it were. We also have cameras around the perimeter so that we can keep control and can keep an eye on where the guests are congregating.
So given you've got the garden area, how, gardens can conceal. What is your good strategy around that?
So we've had new CCTV cameras put in place.
And how much lighting is there? in the
There's a
garden?
lot of new lighting in the gardens. So there's access lighting all the way through the gardens.
So
we
people
have-
can't hide.
Exactly, but we have a very thorough process in place for sweeping both the building and the gardens for events. We check all of the toilets at the end of each night. We check all of the galleries. The CCTV cameras are checked. So we do have a process in place for making sure that the building is clear before we start to do it, to make sure that it's safe to start taking down the equipment.
And thank you.
Sorry, just in terms of, you mentioned Councillor Wade about directing everyone through a central point. I should probably add that we have up to 3 events taking place in any one night. So people do leave via the exit that they enter through generally, so that the different events don't cross over with each other. They might have different finish times, different fire exit strategies and things like that. And also people tend to leave where they came in because that's where the cloakroom is. So channeling everyone back through could be more of a security issue, I think, if we were to do that. So and probably the best thing I'd speak to about how we manage this, because we do have plans in place, is probably the many years of experience that we have doing it and without issue. And our security are very on hand at dealing with things, and it does extend out beyond the building as well. Our duty of care definitely does reach further.
But I think on this case,
She's not finished. Yes.
It's a
Are you finished now?
Madam.
it's my first hearing.
So,
One thing that is new though is, if I understand correctly, is that now you're going to have late evening events on the east side,
correct.
which is the newness of it. So when you say you have years of experience managing multiple events in the same night, it was on the Darwin side and on the main building, but now you're going to have the third exit to manage, and it's also a different exit route. So the resident associations on the East Coast Road obviously are different people than the ones leading up to Queensgate. So
Absolutely.
this is, I think, the essence of the question is how you're going to manage that extra intake and exit,
Sure.
and also on Exhibition Road. the landscape is slightly different in Queensgate.
Absolutely, and we have experienced that as well. Our second most popular venue within the museum is the Earth Hall, which has the direct exit onto Exhibition Road. So we do quite a lot, probably about 50 or so events that come out into Exhibition Road each year already.
Okay.
So we have the management plan in place for that as well.
So, do you have another question? I just wanted to make sure that, do you go around the surrounding area and collect glasses that are left or
Yes.
bottles of beer or whatever?
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's part of the
That's
routine.
Yeah, exactly. So all glassware, anything from every single event is collected and de-rigged. And so nothing's left on site from any event, whether it's glassware, catering equipment, production equipment, floristry, everything gets cleared. And we have a process in place with our suppliers to do that sweep. We also have our security team, and we have a team of porters on every event who we have around 12 to 14 porters on every event who also do a third sweep to make sure that everything is
And smoking, what do you do about cigarette butts?
they are swept up at the end of the night. We actually provide ashtrays for smokers, but if anything is left on the ground, and that gets swept up.
Excellent.
We normally have one designated area for smoke.
Okay. It's good.
Can I just ask a question about the exit onto the TfL tunnel?
It will be closed for events. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have another question?
No.
Okay. Now questions from our legal officer.
Okay, so it's fine. And just in tunnels at Exhibition Roadside,
That's right.
I've just got a few questions, bear with me, right. You've also offsites, but on your plan, the red line encompasses all your gardens.
Yes,
That means it's on sales.
yes.
Why have you applied for off sales?
It was the advice we were given by Laura because we haven't licensed the area called the Wildlife Garden,
Yeah.
which is in the bottom left corner or the south
Yeah.
left corner. And it's just if anyone wants to walk through that area with the drink.
Oh, right, okay, that makes sense. Are you envisaging, sorry, just writing this down quite hard. Are you envisaging people buying alcohol and taking it away with them or taking half consumed bottles?
No,
So not take away alcohol or taking half empty bottles.
no.
Okay, so it's purely just for that wildlife area.
That's right. Laura did mention to us as well that it would be advisable to do that in case anyone was to try and sneak a drink out. Because we do have security in place, but sometimes people are sneaky.
Okay, so that's good to know. In terms of buying alcohol, so obviously you're going to have people like in your different events. Are they going to be always served by waiter waitress service, or are they going to be going up to bars and paying themselves?
95% is waiter waitress service. We have the odd event where they will run it as a cash bar.
So when it's waiter waitress service, it comes as part of the ticket, they pay a certain amount of money. And how many exits are there from the premises? Is there one Exhibition Road, one Cromwell Road, and one Queensgate, like main exits for people to leave through?
Yes.
So 3 main exits. And obviously the whole area is licensed, but primarily your events can be held in the Evolution Garden and the Darwin Courtyard Centre. Will people kind of be in these areas as well?
Potentially. When we'll be running, we envisage that the majority of events will either have over on the space over on the east side or over on the west side. But we envisage that there may be some events that would like to walk across and see the whole garden.
And will you have, I know you've got this area licensed for ourselves just in case, but presumably, are there just, how many entrances are there into the wildlife garden?
There's lots of paths. So, but they can all be cordoned off if we
Can be
need to.
cordoned
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And obviously other questions might crop up during the conditions bit, but I think I'm done.
Okay, well, since we do not have any objectors, I'd like to ask, we're not done yet,
Okay.
because I'd like you to deal, please, with the draft conditions and any other queries that you may have.
Right, so obviously you want some conditions, and I've just tweaked them a bit in red, so it's just a matter of you just let us have any comments. Number one, I haven't really, number one and number two, I haven't really changed, they're pretty much the same. Number three, are you okay with the alternative, just reject wording?
Yeah.
Again, number four, I'll just slightly rejig the wording.
Yeah. That's fine, thank you.
Number five. Rejig, you okay with that? I think it says what you said, but I just kind of think about terminology.
Sure.
Number six, I've just added security staff shall be on duty at the premises during the operation of the premises license and until all customers have left.
Yes.
Okay. Number seven, I've just slightly elaborated on.
Yeah.
Number eight, so you've got 30 minutes drinking up after alcohol sales end.
Yeah.
Number nine, no musical amplified sound. That's fine. Number 10, so after the drinking up, the people have got to be off 60 minutes after. So that gives you like the extra half hour on top of the 30 minutes drinking up. Number 11, clearly legible notice at all exits.
Yeah. That's standard procedure already. Yeah.
Number 12, instead of your wording, how are you okay with those two alternative wordings in red?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Sorry, I've printed out black and white, so yeah.
Do you
but-
want to get your copy?
Over there, on that table.
Oh, great,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
it might make life easier for you.
Thank
so-
you.
Struggling. Right, so we're up to number 13.
Sure.
So I think number 13 is dealt with in condition 3, so
Yes.
I can replicate that. Number 14, the dedicated telephone number to be maintained.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put this? Are you going to put that display on the exit? I think that's probably, you would ask that question, right?
Yeah, we can do it a number of ways actually. Next time we speak with residents, we can pass that on. I believe some people have that number already. We have a 24-hour control room, and that's the easiest way for anyone to get in touch. So, but we can either display it or just give that number to people if they don't necessarily want to leave their houses.
No, okay. No, it's just I suppose the people walk past and I think, oh, that's the number. I'll just take a
Sure.
photograph of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Not everyone has internet, I guess.
No, sure, of course.
Okay, number 15, instead of your wording, are you okay with the just my standard 2 wording?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, I think I've just kind of number 16, I've just kind of elaborated on what you've said. You're saying you've offered 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And yeah, are you okay with the wording for that?
Yes.
Right, 17, 18 and 19, this is where you're applying for the non-standard timings for the different areas.
Yeah.
That wouldn't actually.
Sorry, on that one, I think that given the location, can there be an undertaking that the residents' associations actually get informed and what is the methodology? Because putting a notice on the railings might not be seen by.
I think the railings one was to do with the dedicated DPS telephone number. This one is
the meetings.
yeah, the meetings.
I'm just saying it's quite a difficult area to notify.
Yeah, no, of
And
course.
not everybody is a member of a residents' association.
We can, oh yeah, good point. I think there's something like 20 different residents associations, something like that we have the contact details for. And what we tend to do is inform the head of each of those associations, who I think then in turn contact their residents in the way that they would normally contact me.
Yeah. Okay. So it'd be by email contact with ward councillors and local residents associations, and it can filter down. that
Yes,
way.
I'm just saying it just needed.
Yeah. 17, 18 and 19, we wouldn't ordinarily condition it, would form part of like the content template of the licence. And obviously it's for the councillors to discuss timings.
Sure.
I 20, that's fine, rubbish. 21, I think I've just rejigged the wording to say from 10 p.m. each day until 60 minutes after the premises closes, security staff shall properly control customers outside the premises so that they leave quickly and quietly and do not congregate outside the entrances in Exhibition Road and Queensgate, causing noise and nuisance. Do you say sometimes the Cromwell Road entrance is used? I wonder whether
Yes, it
are
is.
you okay about in the Cromwell Road as
Absolutely,
well?
yeah.
So all 3 exits are covered. Yes.
So, Susie, you mentioned CCTV and UCTV, so I suppose that will also be the case on the east side and everything. So the same level of securities that you normally apply from the Darwin Centre will be
Yes,
replicated.
Yeah.
Are you okay with our CCTV condition?
Absolutely, yeah, thank you.
23, I've only just slightly rejigged, but how, just out of interest, where are the designated smoking areas? Is there one for each kind of section?
So for Cromwell Road, that's at the top of the ramps, where you've got the ashtrays, you're smoking. On Exhibition Road, it's just outside our main doors, the museum on Exhibition Road.
On the outside of it, on
Yeah.
the main road, okay,
Yeah, just kind of on the,
on pavement.
yeah,
Yes.
we've got the ashtrays there and we have security officer there. In the Darwin Centre, we have them in the courtyard, just in one small section of the courtyard. And then in the
So you can
gardens,
see,
we
we haven't run any.
find a suitable area for the ashtrays into that designated area to go.
And obviously there's the dispersal policy, which you're going to be doing on the 24th. No amplified live music. You can play recorded music as well outside.
No, there's nothing amplified. The only thing that we would permit would be acoustic.
Is that not amplified live music?
No, because it doesn't come through a speaker.
So it's not.
Oh, okay, so just guitar.
So what happens if you have a film? Is that acoustic or?
So we would, it's a really good point. So for the film, we'd look to do that inside the building. So not necessarily outside because chances are it's going to rain. So I don't think we've got any outdoor films. But within the building, on the other side, the garden kitchen, the garden meeting room, that's where things are mentioned.
It's just they're quite popular having outdoor films.
No, sure, yeah, sure. But yeah, nothing amplified.
Number 26.
Sorry, I should clarify, the discussions that have been had are very, I don't know if you're aware of sort of silent disco setup where people wear their headphones.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
you-
need to discuss.
You sit there and you listen, so the only thing that has been discussed, and if amplified, would be inside a building, but anything outside, sit there with a pair of headphones
Right,
and listen to
the
it.
equipment's very good these days.
Yeah,
Yes,
So if you were to do a film projection outdoors, you would use the silent
Yes.
headsets.
yeah,
That's what you say.
yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
I mean, weather permitted.
Yeah.
26, you now standard from your training.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to ask one point on it. It's that the recommendation is that every 12 months that would be updated. Is there a particular course you would recommend, or would you be content if we did that internally using our own?
Liaise with licensing department.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that, to be
Great.
perfectly honest with you, but
Great.
they may well.
there are some official courses, you can find them online.
Sure.
Yes.
We've got our personal licenses, but I think they're indefinite, so it's about the refresher and the best way to go with that.
Lots of outfits out there that come to my train, but maybe Paul more.
Yeah,
We can have one.
brilliant.
Put you in contact with Laura again before I can.
Brilliant, thanks, Jenny. It's really useful for us as well. What we can do is involve our suppliers with that too,
Yeah.
so that anyone else that comes in to do that can be involved too, so we can get all that recorded.
It's very good. Right, the last lot of conditions are the ones that I've kind of picked up that I thought were missing or haven't been addressed. I mean, you've already mentioned challenge 25, so I'm assuming 27 and 28 aren't going to be an issue. Number 29, it's just that if you're going to be letting out, then obviously you want to name a member of staff kind of relaying all the premises license information to clients.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I saw reference to in relation to number 30, not using the outside garden after 10 p.m, but it wasn't actually conditioned. So I've kind of tried to put it into a
Sure.
condition. Are you happy with, so the applicant, are you happy with having a condition restricting the outside area? There should be no customers in the external area 30 minutes after the end of permitted hours for the sale of alcohol
Yeah.
on the premises until 9 the following day. So whenever your alcohol sales finishes, they've got to be off 30 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe someone, one of your colleagues have picked that up as well. So thank you. Yeah.
So just to be clear, ordinarily it's going to be 10 p.m. outside,
Yes.
apart from the non-specific.
Yeah, so
times.
that would be alcohol service stopping at 9:30, always outside, and then moving everyone inside at 10 p.m.
And then you've got, I think you asked for 11 p.m. outside for your non-standard time.
Yeah,
didn't
so
you?
then
So it's
for
either going to be
our
10 p.m. or 11
occasions.
p.m.
Yeah.
Okay. We've already discussed about the on sales, off sales thing. I think you already explained about the dispersal policy will be covering which exits people leave from. You've already explained that obviously there'll be different events in different areas. They'll be coming in and out the same exits. I don't think you're doing anything. Are there any other conditions that or issues you think that need to be addressed by road condition, or what's the kind of moving?
Sales presumably, from the cafe. You said 95% of most of it will be serviced by waiters.
Yeah.
Or events, sorry.
So then, but in the cafe area where you're going to be selling,
During the day.
just over the counter as a bar.
I think it will be probably quite restricted to, I think they're going to need a bit of flexibility. I mean, presumably during the day, you're going to, people are going to be coming up to the cafe counter and ordering their alcohol and then, you know, to seats themselves. It's more so in the evening when it opens up that you're going to
Yeah.
have this kind of
That's-
change
that's-
dynamic.
The bit that I think that I was a bit concerned for.
What were you wanting to?
Not sure, I was looking at you.
Are you planning to set up outside for a reception or something, tables with glasses of wine or whatever? How do you want to? have it?
For events.
For
That's-
events, yeah, so for events, usually what would happen is we would have waiting staff with trays of drinks for an arrival
Right,
drink. And so guests would enter through the gardens and come in for their welcome drink, pick up a drink from one of the waiting staff.
so are you saying you're not going to have tables that people can help themselves to an open?
We would never have tables where people could help themselves to an open bar. They would always be served by someone, so they would.
So
always
the
be
glasses
served
of
by-
wine will be filled or served by
Yes,
someone?
we would
I'm
never,
just trying to-
yeah, we would never
get it
ever
for-
have anyone able to just go up and help themselves to alcohol.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's the bar, it's the cafe.
It's the daytime.
It's,
So you're kind of thinking that during the day, in those two internal rooms, should alcohol be served by waiter waitress service? Is that what you're kind of thinking, or two seated
it just
customers?
seems to be kind of,
It depends whether they need the flexibility of not having that as a condition, or are you thinking like during the day? I mean, I don't know what time your cut-off point is, and it goes into evening events.
So that's a really good point. We've been operating for many years, daytime, having alcohol available in the gardens for visitors who want to buy it. The alcohol sales are actually very low. We'll sell between 5 and 10 drinks a day. That's with about 20
actually very heavy drinkers. But
So-
it's really, it's just the bit that the question mark I have is just in the evening when somebody goes to the bar.
And that would be private events only.
Yeah, so there wouldn't be that, evening events are private only. And the daytime is our daytime visitors.
But you have late evenings, don't you?
So yeah, occasionally we do. Yeah. But they would be controlled by security in the same way.
So I mean, I'm not really clear what you're kind of. Are you basically saying that during the day you
It was
want
just
people
I
to be restricted?
visualised, for example, you know, for example, the V&A, they do Black Fridays,
Yeah.
right? I can, with the general public is coming in, you haven't invited them, well, the doors are open, so they come in. Oh, but it's just that bit, and they're far more likely to get alcohol sales on a late evening than you are during the day. And yet you have, because especially when it's
So what's your point?
I think you're trying to distinguish between members of the public events versus private events, kind of, okay. So your concern is that obviously members of the public are meant to be during the day, but there might be the occasional late evening events where members of the public are allowed. You're concerned about how alcohol is served to them.
yes,
So what kind of restrictions are you mooting?
because they could easily just come in and just, as you say, just walk out.
We have security
Yeah,
for public events as well.
But that's already the case anyway.
Yeah, but
So your late openings to member of the public are already able
That's
to,
correct.
yeah,
to,
so they could
to
buy
buy
a drink
alcohol.
from the cafe inside at the moment. It's no
Do
different.
they not ordinarily just go and they help themselves to the one? They pay for the drink at the counter.
Yeah,
and they go,
exactly.
they go sit down, find a
Yeah.
table and have a drink.
Yeah.
So what are you kind of thinking?
It was when they were walking through the garden.
At what time?
Don't forget it closes at 10 in the gardens or
Yeah.
11 on specific timing days.
It was just a query. And
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't had issues with that. We haven't had any complaints, have we?
No, just the two that were referenced in the report.
Yes.
I mean, obviously it's not a restaurant, so we're not going to be kind of doing restaurant type conditions. And obviously you obviously it's for you guys to decide in private session, but obviously they're going to need an element of flexibility because if we start adding conditions about it all being by waitress service during specific timings, then it might be difficult to kind of enforce. So I think you need just to think about that.
One part of it, it said being served with substantial.
Yeah, that's a restaurant type condition.
Yes,
Yes,
So
but that was
this
a
kind of
cafe is
license.
slightly different.
Yeah, it's a different type scenario.
It has to be manageable.
Has to be manageable.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I've got any more questions. Anybody else?
Any other questions? And our licensing officers, anything to add?
Nothing from licensing, Jeff.
No. Okay, governance? We have reached the end of this meeting. Thank you. The committee now has all the information needed and we will retire to make our decision in private session. We will not announce our decision today. Instead, the hearing will be closed. A summary determination will be sent to the parties within 5 working days of today's hearing. And a full decision will follow as soon as possible thereafter. The time limit for appealing the decision will not commence until the full decision has been sent to the parties. Thank you for attending, everyone, and the hearing is now closed. Thank you, counselors. Thank you, legal advisor.